How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Weather Sponge 5000, and we have seen pretty big developments regarding this next potential Midwest and Northeast snowstorm from both of the most reliable computer models, the GFS and the European model. So first, taking a look at the GFS model, we do have scattered snow showers throughout the western half of the United States. This will eventually lead to a lot of instability to develop right around the midsection of the country for our next major winter storm to develop in the Midwest and eventually the Northeast. We do have this trough moving through, going to bring some snow showers right around North Dakota, maybe around an inch of snow, but this isn't the storm system that's going to bring snowfall to portions of the Midwest and Northeast. It's going to be this one right here, where right over the Southwest we do see a pretty widespread area of snow showers throughout Arizona and New Mexico, but more importantly, there's a decent amount of cold air behind this storm system, and it's going to interact with this very warm and humid air mass in the southeast that's going to enhance the convective activity. So in the southeast, you should prepare for heavy rainfall right around the Sunday timeframe, Sunday into Monday, and we do see a pretty large area of snow develop right over Oklahoma and Kansas, and this is capable of bringing maybe around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall over these areas. So in Kansas and northern Oklahoma and even the extreme northern portions of the Texas Panhandle, you definitely need to be aware of this over the next few days as we approach late this weekend. And continuing to move forward with forecasts, the storm will continue to intensify. We do see it isn't a strong storm at this point, but it'll only grow stronger once it encounters more and more instability. And look at how heavy the snow is. Oklahoma City could potentially get involved with maybe up to 3 inches of snowfall, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do see more, if we do see enough cold air move a little bit further southward, and if we do see the storm system become a little bit larger when it comes to the area of snowfall. Moving forward with forecasts, the snowfall should eventually move into Missouri by the midday on Monday. So southern and central Missouri should receive the impact size. It's going to be a relatively close forecast if you're close to the rain snow line. So any small changes with the track of this storm system could make a big difference, especially if you are close to the rain or are expected to be right around the ballpark when it comes to where the rain snow line will be located. So St. Louis, this could be a close forecast for you guys, because if we were to see the snowfall or the cold air shift a little bit further southeastward, then that could mean the difference between receiving 3 to 6 inches of snowfall to no snow at all over St. Louis. So St. Louis, you need to pay close attention to this. And by the time we approach Monday evening, the snowfall should move into Illinois, and we do see the storm system continues to intensify. Now it has a millibar pressure of 998 millibars, which is certainly stronger than the 1,005 millibars it was at just 24 hours earlier. So the storm system is going to continue to intensify, and that will only lead to heavier snow totals as this continues to head further eastward. And since there's going to be more cold air located in the Northeast, we're going to see the area of snowfall become larger, and we clearly see areas like northern Indiana, Cleveland gets involved. You guys would probably receive around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall in a scenario like this. And eventually the snow will move into northern Pennsylvania, the entirety of upstate New York. And based on what we're seeing right here, you're probably thinking that, oh, this is just going to be a rain event for New York City and Philadelphia, where we clearly see that the temperature is still a little bit too warm right over New York City and Philadelphia, at least in this scenario, for there to be snowfall. But you have to think again, because look at the backside of this storm system. The snowfall will eventually move into New York City and Philadelphia, where the temperature will be cold enough to bring snowfall even up along the coast, even right up along the coastal cities like New York City and Philadelphia. And keep in mind, there's still that possibility the trajectory of the storm system could shift a little bit further southeastward, because you have to think, look at where that rain snow line is located. That's probably only 10 to 20 miles just north of New York City initially. So if we were to see the storm, let's say, move just only 10 miles to the south, that could mean the difference between receiving maybe only 3 inches of snow in New York City to potentially receiving close to 10 inches of snow in New York City, which could which definitely could play a major role in terms of how much snowfall you receive. So we're definitely going to need to pay close attention to where exactly the trajectory of the storm will be located, because that will make a big difference in some of these areas when it comes to how much snowfall you should expect. But outside of New York City and Philadelphia receiving snowfall on the backside, we see that for Boston, this is entirely a snow event for you guys, and the GFS model wants to bring over a foot of snow over southern New England, which would definitely be extremely major for you guys, as it's been a while since you guys experienced a snowstorm that brought over a foot of snow. I think the last time was back in 2021, so it's been almost 3 years since you last seen over a foot of snow. I could be wrong about that. That's just coming from the top of my head, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But the point is, it's been a while since you received over a foot of snow in southern New England, but this could be the possibility depending on where exactly the storm system moves. And I will say that the possibility of a snowstorm impacting portions of the Midwest and Northeast is more likely as of today, because not only the GFS model is forecasting a snowstorm for these areas, but the European model as well. And in fact, the European model is taking a somewhat of a similar trajectory as GFS model, but there certainly are key differences that definitely will play a big role in terms of how much snowfall you receive. So here's the European model. Here's the storm system still bringing snowfall to the same areas of Texas, northern Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Kansas, and Missouri. Still expecting snowfall in a lot of the same areas. But what's interesting is that, at least initially speaking, we see that the storm system will be a little bit further southward. So a place like St. Louis will get involved with entirely a snow event, and same goes for Arkansas. This is different from what the GFS model is forecasting, where it's expecting a trajectory that's a little bit further northward. And moving forward with the forecast, we see that the snowfall is mainly relegated towards the interior Northeast, while much of the coastal Northeast experiences entirely a rain event, and there isn't a lot of snow on the backside to maybe bring a heavier amount of snowfall to the bigger cities like New York City and Philadelphia. But in terms of Boston, it's definitely a much closer forecast for you guys. You guys are closer to a rain snow line, so it isn't really set in stone if it's going to be entirely a snow event for you guys in Boston. So definitely stay tuned for more updates once that forecast becomes more certain. And for Southeast, for much of Southeast of New England, this is entirely a rain event. So it's definitely different from what we were seeing with the GFS model. So but I will say, because this is definitely different, that the European model is now expecting a major snowstorm of some kind to develop, and in its previous runs, it wasn't expecting any snow at all. So the fact that the European model is now leaning more to what the GFS model scenario has been stating this whole time, we could at least expect a higher risk of a snowstorm for the Midwest and the Northeast. I will say it's likely for the Midwest. For the Northeast, that still has yet to be seen. We're still right around 5 days out, but it certainly is more likely than it was before. So definitely stay tuned for more updates once you get changes. And like I've been talking about over the past several videos, a key thing that will determine who will receive the snowfall, how powerful this storm system will be, and if we'll see snow at all, really all depends on this ridge located just to the east of this storm system and this small trough that you probably can't see when you take a look at the computer models, but it's certainly there. That trough will play a role in terms of weakening this ridge and enhancing the amount of cold air in the Northeast. If we were to take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly to better indicate where exactly this trough is, as well as the ridge just to the east of the storm system. So moving forward with the forecast, there is a strong amount of ridging over the eastern half of the United States, which is the reason why it's been warmer than average and much drier than average over the east coast of the U.S., which definitely has been leading to very beautiful conditions here, where you're not really seeing any clouds in the sky thanks to the amount of sinking air we're seeing in the eastern portion of the U.S. But moving forward, we see that this first trough will begin its stages in weakening this ridge. So we're definitely gonna see the temperatures fall just a little bit thanks to that. This ridging is gonna weaken, and here's a main trough that's expected to become our next big snowstorm. But you clearly see that just to the north of it, there's another small trough, an Alberta Clipper moving just to the north of it. That's only gonna weaken this ridging a bit more, and it's going to weaken it to a point where the storm system would be able to move further southward. Now, the key thing is how strong this trough will be, as well as how fast it'll move, because the faster this storm system moves, as well as the stronger it is, that would mean that the ridging would be weaker by the time this storm system approaches the east coast, to the point where we'd see a track a little bit further southward. It would be slightly weaker in a scenario like this, thanks to the less amount of instability that would be induced from a weaker ridge, since there's going to be less of a strong southerly push that will force a warmer air mass to interact with this cooler air mass. But it will force the storm to take a further track further southward, which would certainly enhance the chance of snowfall right up along the northeast coast and in the areas further southward in the Midwest as well. But if we were to see this trough be a little bit weaker than anticipated, move a little bit slower than anticipated, that means that this ridge would still be rather strong, and strong enough to take this storm towards a trajectory a little bit further northward more quickly, which would mainly relegate the snowfall to the interior northeast, at least the worst of the snowfall, while coastal cities like New York City and Philadelphia and even Washington, D.C., I wouldn't rule you guys out just yet when it comes to snowfall, would entirely see a rain event if this ridge were to be a little bit stronger and this trough were to be a little bit weaker and move a little bit more slowly. So we're definitely going to need to pay close attention to how this will build, but based on what the European model is stating as of its latest run, it expects this ridge to be at least strong enough to where the storm system will move north enough to bring entirely a rain event to New York City and Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. While for Boston, it'll be a little bit closer, more of a mix and maybe some snowfall accumulation, but definitely not as confident that you would experience entirely a snow event in the Boston area, as it will certainly be a much closer forecast in a scenario like this. But if we were to take a look at the GFS model's forecast on the flip side, we clearly see the GFS model is different. The GFS model would want to take a weaker amount of ridging, which means that this storm system would take a trajectory further southward. We see that this trough just north of it ends up being quite a bit stronger and moves a little bit faster, which weakens this ridge a little bit more significantly and enhances the cold air in the northeast just enough for this to entirely for the chance of snowfall to be certainly higher for the southeast, as we clearly see this storm system takes a trajectory a lot further southward. This ridge is weaker, which allows the cold air to move further southward. So we're definitely going to need to pay close attention to these forecasts. Definitely stay tuned, but I will say we're more likely to at least experience some sort of major winter storm in the Midwest and Northeast. The question remains exactly where that will occur. So definitely keep watching these videos. I'll certainly keep you guys updated. Hopefully it does happen here in the Northeast, because it's been a rather dry winter the past 2 winters. Here in New Jersey, we have seen a decent amount of snowstorms moving, or at least 2 snowstorms moving through that brought a light amount of snowfall, but you definitely want to see more, especially after the snowfall deficit we've been seeing the past 2 winter seasons. So this could potentially be our next big one. So let's say the GFS model scenario was completely correct, and this, as you clearly see, this will be a very significant snowstorm for millions of Americans. We see over a foot of snow in portions of northern Oklahoma into southern Kansas, and 6 to 12 inches of snowfall for central Missouri, including St. Louis. Chicago would potentially get involved in a scenario like this, 3 to 6 inches of snowfall. And then for northeast, this would be even more significant, where portions of upstate New York, northern Pennsylvania, and even northern New Jersey could experience over a foot of snow. And same goes for Boston and the entirety of southern New England. New York City gets involved with right around 3 to 6 inches of snowfall, but very close to 6 to 12 inches. So, going to be a fairly close forecast that could bring significant snowfall. Philadelphia, maybe around 3 to 6 inches. So, definitely stay tuned for more updates. However, with the European model scenario, the European model does expect a little bit less snowfall, and the snowfall to be relegated a little bit further northward towards the interior northeast, where New York City and Philadelphia don't receive any snowfall accumulation. But the snowfall is further southward in the Midwest, where Oklahoma City experiences 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. St. Louis gets a little bit more involved in southern Missouri in general. Same goes for southern Illinois, Indiana. Chicago would be less likely in a scenario like this, and the interior northeast gets the worst of it. While Boston, it's close forecasts for you guys, but southern New England misses out on snowfall accumulation. So there's still a decent amount of uncertainty, so make sure to stay tuned for more updates. But that's it for now, guys, and I thank you guys for watching.